Man. All right. Hey, everyone. I just want to welcome you to our very first NBGSA talk. My name is John Wosu. I am the immediate past president of the National Black Graduate Student Association. I'm originally from Austell, Georgia, which is a few minutes right outside of Atlanta. I went to Georgia Southern University, got my bachelor's degree in chemistry and my master's degree in counselor education. And I'm currently a graduate student in the specialist program, and I work for the university, and blah, blah, blah. That's enough about me. So what we really wanted to do with NBGSA and the National Black Graduate Student Association talks is provide an opportunity for folks to have some really important conversations, and hear some really important material from people who are going through what we're going through as Black graduate students or who have already been through it. So today we have on Dr. John Williams, who teaches at Albany State University, and you'll hear from him in just a second. But before then, I just want to go over a few things to kind of give you all some context. All right. So for those of you who don't know about NBGSA, we are an interdisciplinary organization, and we focus on engaging, connecting, supporting, and developing current and future Black graduate students and professionals. All right. So one of our major events is the National Black Graduate Student Conference that usually takes place in March each year. And so in this upcoming year, be on the lookout for more information. We're really excited about it. And we expect for it to be in Houston and to be a really great time. So keep your eyes and ears open about more information on that. And if you, after viewing all of this, want to get involved or just want more information about the organization in general, please contact our VP of Membership, future Dr. Lisa Covington, who is currently a doctoral student at the University of Iowa. Her email address is VPSHIP, that's VPSHIP at mynbgsa.org. That's mynbgsa.org, right? Or you can visit us at mynbgsa.org and just check out our site. And by the way, all these links are in the description. So next, I want to talk a little bit about one of our major initiatives for the year. Our president, Mr. Clifton Snorton, who's a graduate student at Ball State University in Indiana, is the leader of our NBGSA Runs campaign. And the goal is to really address the needs of Black graduate students and also the communities that we are from and that we co-create with. And so there were 5 areas that we focused on, and each of us, a different exec board member, has decided to take on one of these areas. One is entrepreneurship, another is community service, the next is civic engagement, another one is health and wellness, which is the one that I'm over and what I'm doing tonight, and then the last one is academics and scholarships. And so just a little bit of information about the wellness focus. I actually am focusing on 7 areas, and tonight specifically we're going to talk about academic and career wellness. And so, like I said before, we have Dr. John Williams to talk a little bit about what that would entail. He's going to kind of discuss some things about what he wish he had known prior to attending graduate school. I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Williams, aka John. Cool guy. I met him in Jacksonville at one of our previous conferences where he served as a keynote speaker. And then after he was done keynoting, he's just, a real cool guy. So I appreciate the opportunity to really talk to him because he helped shape my perspective. Because he was, at the time, I was still finishing my master's program, and I didn't really know too many people who, were professors that I could relate to in the same way that I could relate with him. So it was pretty dope. It gave me a different perspective on how to create my own vision for my own self. So without any further ado, I want to go ahead and just toss everything to him. And when you have about 10 minutes left, you'll see me do this. So,
okay.
All right. So the floor is yours, sir.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, John, for inviting me to do this. I have to admit, when I met you, there was a kindred spirit there because, we're brothers trying to get this education thing going. So it was nice to meet you as well. And I'm thankful and appreciative of you thinking enough of me to be a part of this series. So my name's Dr. John Williams. I am a professor of biology at Albany State University. My research is in invertebrate physiology as well as cardiovascular physiology. I know those two are slightly different, but you know, there's a method to that madness. And I went to Florida State University for my PhD. Things that that I recognized when I was in graduate school is that it is very, very important for you to understand the nature of graduate school, as well as to understand how to take care of yourself during that process, because the graduate school and don't make it out. And usually it has nothing to do with whether they are capable or whether they have the aptitude or whether they have the ability. It has everything to do with navigating the waters and making it through graduate school in a way that's time efficient, cost efficient, etc. And so I wanted to share with you just some of the things that I wish I knew going into graduate school that I had to figure out, so that hopefully you won't go through those same stumbling blocks. Now, the very first thing, and I'll jump right into it, and I have to apologize. Sometimes I'll refer to things that happen in sciences, but there are probably comparable experiences in other areas. So I'll just give you that heads up. If I'm referring to science, there's probably something in your field that's equal or comparable. Thing I recognized when I got to graduate school, and even now looking back on it, I realize even more so, is that experience in graduate school is going to be very individualized. Now, anyone can tell you what graduate school is like from their perspective, and they'll probably be telling you 100% accurate and true information. But that does not mean that their experience will be your experience. In fact, you could work under the same mentor, same professors, even work on the same projects or the same concepts, and have totally different graduate school experiences. Now, that's important information to know, because there will be times where the answer may not be in those around you, because they may not be experiencing what you're experiencing. Simply put, your set of ideas, your set of circumstances, your responsibilities, your priorities are going to be different, and it's different for every single person. So how you deal with this graduate school activity and this graduate school experience is going to also be individualized. That's the first thing to note. The second thing to note is not everyone will be able to understand your experience. This is important, because as I was going through graduate school, I'm from Southwest Georgia, youngest of my family. Always been the one that's been on the academic side, so always been promoted or pushed to do things for the academic level. It was one of those things where I'm the only scientist in my family, the only person that went into STEM. So when it came time for me to start doing science at the 6th and 7th grade level, I couldn't get help. There was nobody who could tutor me. There was nobody who could help me. So I had to kind of get it at school. And once I got to undergrad, I really was on my own if there wasn't anybody in my department. But when I got to graduate school, a lot of the experiences that I dealt with, sometimes being in the lab late, sometimes having to an experiment fail and having to redo it again after 2 months of work, people couldn't relate to that. Oh, well, you're smart, it's okay, you'll get through it. And so I realized that there will always be times where I had to rely on myself, because not everybody would be able to understand. So that's the second thing. The third thing that ties into that is they don't always need to understand. You have a circle of individuals around you who simply know that you're going through a struggle and will be a sounding board and a listening ear. And sometimes it's good that they're not in the same area as you, because they have fresh eyes and fresh ears on your problem. They may not understand the technicalities of, reading a 200-page analysis on Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, or understanding calculus-based economics, or any other thing like that. But they may be able to understand interpersonal and intrapersonal problems in the workplace. They may be able to understand the need for developing faith and being able to, a faith of some sort. It doesn't have to be a religious faith, but even faith in you and your circumstances to be able to push through. And so having those people around you to support you, selective with them, but having those people around you to support you, even if they don't understand what you're doing, is critical. It will help you get through the graduate school process. NBGSA and BGSA at the local level was my way of getting through. All right. I'll tell you this, John, and I think I shared this with you before, but that was the first time I ever had a group of young brothers who were all striving for success. There was no jealousy. There was no animosity. There was simply us trying to enrich each other's lives, trying to help enhance our experience in graduate school, and trying to help us stay up, trying to help us stay on an even keel so that we can make it through. And I thank God every day for those guys, because they really helped me get through graduate school. In fact, many of them were at my wedding, and a couple of them were actually in my wedding party because I thought that much of them. So that's something that you need to do, and they don't have to be in your field. It will help you get those tough times. The thing I want to share with you is you got to make sure that you keep your health, both mentally and physically, in line. Because the way that your body responds to stress, the way that your body responds to work, it responds to anything that's going on in your environment will affect your productivity, as well as, honestly, your ability to retain information, your ability to communicate. All of those things will start to play a role. In fact, many of us realize day to day how our eating, exercise, or lack of exercise, and our habits affect us on a regular basis. I tell my students all the time, if you're not paying attention in my class, and you haven't eaten breakfast, and we have a class at 10 o'clock in the morning, then you're not going to retain that kind of information that you need to be able to retain, because you're waiting till lunch to eat. Now, they think that it's okay because, well, I'm so busy, I can just wait till lunch, just wait until 3 o'clock in the afternoon because I got classes back to back to back. But if you don't do something to get your blood sugar to a normal level when you wake up in the morning, you don't do something to give yourself the nutrients necessary to focus, you're going to have a hard time retaining that information. Same thing goes for exercising. I'm working on myself now, trying to get sexy. I'm a little overweight, but one of the things I realized in graduate school is when I did go to the gym and I did look out for my health, I was a bit more productive in the lab. I felt better. And it had very little to do with my capabilities once again, but I took care of my body and my mind, and that helped me to get through some things. Also, mental health. That's one thing that we have to address. A lot of times we don't think about going to a counselor just to get some stuff off our chest. It could be something small and you just need somebody to vent to. And you may not want to vent to those who are in your immediate circle because that's kind of a personal circle and you may not want to share it with them, but sharing with a stranger may be a little bit easier. Take advantage of some of those health resources and those mental health resources at your institution. Usually graduate students get, I think, at least at Florida State, I think we got up to 6 sessions that were free. Talk, get stuff out, get it off your chest before it builds into something that could really be harmful. And you will be surprised how relieved you'll be once you get a chance to just get it out. Sometimes just vocalizing it to someone else who understands or is willing to listen will get it out. And sometimes you don't want to do that in your circle. So you take care of your health and your wellness. Now, graduate school is an endurance run. It's not a sprint. Therefore, wherever you're going to be for graduate school, you're going to be there for a while. That's going to be your home. So the next thing I want to share with you is you need to integrate yourself into the community where you live during graduate school. With a town like Statesboro, which has a lot going on, but it's a small town, or they're in a metropolitan area like Houston or LA or New York, wherever you are, if you are not integrated in that community, time seeing yourself in that community for the duration of your graduate studies. I can't tell you how often I've heard people say to me, as soon as I graduate, I can't wait to get out of here. And they put so much energy into not wanting to be there, being there. And that spills over into how they feel about their schoolwork. That spills over into how they interact with their peers. That spills over into their productivity, because they're not happy where they are. And part of it is because they haven't bothered to venture into that community. So volunteer in that community. Volunteer at the local YMCA, at a local school system. Do something that gets you current work, but it allows you to be productive and helpful. Because when you come back to your graduate work, you'll be refreshed, you'll be renewed, and you'll actually be willing to stay where you are. I'll give you this. I started students with HIV, high school students with HIV in Florida while I was there. And that was so beneficial to me because they looked up to me as they were trying to get to college. And even though I didn't understand some of the problems they were dealing with, the fact that I was willing to listen and be a big brother rather than be an overprotective parent or be a doctor or someone, like the fact that I was just willing to listen and be there for them was therapeutic for me and for them. Every week, I looked forward to meeting with them, and I started getting ties to the city where I was because I started integrating and volunteering in places that were around my graduate school. So integrate yourself into the community. I promise you it will help you get through that. Next thing, got two more. The next thing is you definitely want to be careful with your relationships. And this is for those of you who are either single or those of you who are in current relationships, school, and also family relationships. People have to understand your priorities. The young lady I was dating when I first got to graduate school was in Spanish, and she's Latina. Her major was Spanish, and she's Latina, which means basically she was done with her work at 5:00 p.m. Because most of it, if it was any translation, she basically had it done by noon. If there was any reading, she was cool. If she had to write, she was fine. All that good stuff there. So I'm not saying her degree was any less important, because she did excellent work. She was already familiar with when she got there. I wasn't born into biology. I had to work my way there. So she couldn't understand me being in the lab for 12 hours. Clearly, I could have done it in 3. The answer is no, right? And as much as I tried to get her to understand that, a lot of stress came because we eye to eye, and she couldn't understand my priorities. If that becomes an issue, you need to deal with it early, because it can really become a problem in the long run. And ultimately, you're there for a reason. And your success in graduate school will help you in your relationship. And if it progresses to marriage and those types of things, it will help you to be successful in graduate school so that you can be a better wife or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend down the line. But if it's causing problems in your social life and it spills over into your work life, like it was doing for me, be counterproductive. The woman that I ended up marrying, I met in the last couple of years of grad school. And one thing that was different between her and the young lady I dated when I first got there is that she understood my priorities and she supported those. If I had to go out of town for a conference, she didn't stress me about when I was coming back. And she was also in graduate school too. So I gave her the respect of her priorities. I didn't stress about the time that she had available. When we had time, we made time. We respected each other so much for the support that we gave each other that it was a natural fit that we make this a long-term thing. Is you got to make sure that your relationships, and this goes for family too. There were times that I had to miss certain family events, had to miss certain funerals because I was working on prelims, I was working on tests, I was working on projects, and people have to understand that. You got to make sure you maintain those relationships across the board. The last thing, I could probably do this all day, but the last thing I really want to share with you guys is don't forget to have fun with what you're doing. You all are going into your fields because eventually you're going to contribute to that body of knowledge that is your field. Criminology, business, higher ed, anything in the STEM, whatever it is, you are going to be an expert and you're going to be contributing to the body of knowledge that is that field. If you don't enjoy it, If you don't find a way for it to be a passion, I'm not saying that it's not going to be tough times. It's going to be an easy road. But I am saying if you don't have an intrinsic motivation to get through it and enjoy it, then you're probably not going to stay in that field long. It could be counterproductive, and in some cases could be a waste of time. So rather, make sure that you have fun both with the work that you do and outside of the work that you do, so that ultimately your outlook on graduate school and your progress will be a good one. In Tallahassee, I did several things. I was always at karaoke on Wednesday. That was my midweek treat. I knew if I could make it to Wednesday, I could get all of my stress out by singing on stage. I won't tell you the songs that I sung because they're probably not appropriate, but they were fun, and it was fun to do with my circle of friends. We got up there. There's some videos floating around somewhere on YouTube, I'm sure. But we did that. I joined meetup groups. There was a meetup group. I'll tell you a quick story. Group during the time that I was single in graduate school, I joined a singles meetup group. And when I looked at the list of individuals that were on that meetup group, I was like, it's a lot of nice women on here. We had conversations. It was great. I never bothered to ask the age. So when we actually met up to go out, we went to the movies, and it was me and about 8 women who were over the age of 48. And I was 27. 8 women, all of them between 48 and 64. And believe it or not, that was the most fun I've ever had in my life in graduate school. And so I hung out with that particular group quite often. It was fun. And some of their perspectives, because they had lived life and had some experiences that I haven't gotten to, they shared with me, and some of my perspective I shared with them. And it was such a wonderful time. And those types of experiences help to balance the workload that you have. So have fun, get involved in social groups, get involved with on-campus groups, go out with your friends, see your city, make sure you're building some time to travel when you can. Your priority is still your schoolwork, but make sure that you don't let that priority overtake that fun part, because the fun that you sprinkle in here and there will help with your health and wellness, particularly your mental health as you go through. One of the things that I think are really, really good to know, and you probably have a bunch of things that you've learned as well. So if you give a webinar one day, you can share your expertise with the next generation and so forth. We want to pay it forward, and that's why I'm doing this today. If you all would like to contact me, my email is john.williams@asurams.edu. That's John, John, .Williams, WILLIAMS, at ASURAMS.edu. Share with me your thoughts, ideas, any questions that you have. If you need any type of help getting through graduate school, if you're in the job market right now and you need some help, or if you just want some leads or anything, if you want to bounce some ideas off me, feel free to do so. I'm very open, and I'll give it to you as honest and as frank as I can. But my goal is to be a resource for you guys from here until I breathe my last breath. So you have access to me. Please use it. All right. John, once again, thank you so much for having me. I hope this helps somebody. If it helps one person, then I think the job is done. But hopefully it's a benefit to your viewers and to the listeners. So thank you.
And thank you. Thank you. Do you have a few minutes to explore a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, excellent. First, any other social media that you want to share?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, and it's just John Williams. Feel free to add me. I'm at Albany State University, so you can look me up by school, and I'm pretty easy to find. Other than that, I don't do like Twitter that often. The Twitter page that I have is associated with a couple of groups on campus, so I don't really use those that often or anything else. So, yeah.
Cool. I can definitely say that every time I hear you talk about this stuff, I think that it's really awesome. And so I always take something from it. So you at least help me. So walk away knowing that. Really, I guess I want to advocate for is, of course, the mental, emotional stuff. I think that somebody mentioned me the other day, and also the connection with that has with like your behavior. Someone mentioned me the other day that since I had been working out, like I was a happier person, or like they enjoy spending time with me more. And I was like, that's interesting. But generally, when I do work out, I'm more pleasant. I'm able to be more engaged for longer, and provide more quality to whatever it is I'm doing. So I think that was a really great point that you made. And we don't always make that connection between our physical behaviors and how that impacts us mentally and emotionally, and vice versa. But I think that all of that stuff is so connected, and that's also what I appreciate about your approach, because some people might be like, I thought we were talking about academic and career wellness. Well, how's all this relevant? I think
Right.
that everything is so interconnected that if you expect for whatever we're doing to be straightforward, I think that's a very basic approach, and that's what a lot of people take. I think
Right.
that there's value in that. I also think that you miss out on a lot of important stuff. And a lot of times the stuff that is problematic for us are the things that are behind the scenes. Like they tell us go to school, study, get a good job, try not to get that much debt, but they don't tell you, hey, walk, X amount of times every day, or make sure
Right.
you're looking at your predisposure to diabetes and other health outcomes that you need to be aware of, like how many people in your family and things of that nature. So yeah, it's very important for us to have those conversations so that we can then be our best selves when it is time for us to go to class and study and get our projects done and things of that nature. So I really appreciate your approach, and that's really why I wanted you to be on here today.
Yeah. Can I share something with you real quick?
Sure.
This time last year, my wife and I lost my first son. Um, it was tough for me because this was my little man. He was already Trey, John the third. I had everything in life planned out for him. I had his marriage already planned out for him because I just knew he was going to get a PhD or MD and become this awesome professional, marry a wonderful wife, and I all of that. And in the blink of an eye, just one day, my wife woke up, went to work, placental abruption. He didn't make it, and it changed that quickly. And I kept dealing with whether or not I did something wrong. Was I adequate enough? And part of that's selfish, I admit, but part of that is, we keep learning male gender roles. And really quick story, all the men in my family are physically imposing. You're not gonna grab them. They hardcore. I was never that. I can defend myself. I can defend anybody around me, but I was never that person that had that physical imposition. I was the one who could think through things. And so here I was in a situation where intelligence, no matter how hard I thought about it, no matter what options I came up with, I couldn't bring him back. And I wondered, was I adequate enough? And every single day I couldn't help but start crying and all of this stuff. And I was trying to just suck it up and go back to work. I went back to work like a week later. And from that time until now, I've put on 25 pounds. I've gone from being, having moderate hypertension to having to be on 2 medications. I've gone from being normal blood sugar to pre-diabetic. And what I realize is I never dealt with it or found a healthy way to get myself mentally correct. And that was affecting my health, my physical health. I wasn't able to really, I was angry with folks at work. I was having tense standoffs with folks. And it was stuff that I didn't start. It was stuff that I had a reason to be upset, but my response was always over the top for me because I hadn't dealt with mental issues that were happening. And I see people do that in graduate school. I see people do that even in undergrad where they don't know how to cope with it. So they just try to push through. Family member dies. They don't take a withdrawal. They just take the zeros that they got. They didn't tell anybody. They're just going to try to push through because their pride won't let them withdraw from a class, or their pride won't let them sit out a semester. They got to be strong. They got to be tough. Sometimes being tough will kill you. Right? And he was the toughest character in DC, and even he died. So with that being said, we got to make sure that we take care of our mental health. I started seeing a counselor, and in 2 sessions, I've gotten to the point where I've lost 10 pounds. I've gotten to the point where I'm comfortable and I'm able to deal with problems in the workplace. And this is only 2 sessions. I got another session in 2 weeks, but I was willing to go get my mind right to help me get my health right. So that when my wife and I try again, I'll be in a better place mentally and physically so that next time around I can be a good father. If you're in grad school, if you're dealing with these problems, you want to make sure that you're still in a good place. You'll probably never get through tragedy completely, but at least being able to cope with it and deal with it and being in a sound mental state will help you be able to push through it and still be successful with your goals. And I'm sharing that with you. I'm being as open with you as I possibly can because we don't talk about mental health a lot, but it affects everything that we do. I know that was a lot, but just felt like sharing it with you.
And I just want to say thank you for sharing. I think it was really courageous of you to do that, one. And I think too, that there's strength and vulnerability. And as black men, as black people, we don't really look at vulnerability as something that has value at all.
Right.
I think from you saying that, yo, this is something I've struggled with, I know I can connect to what you're talking about. And I know there are people who are going to be listening to this who can say the same thing. And hopefully, that'll help them get past the fears of going to see a counselor. And for me, straight up, I went through a counseling program, and I didn't actually go see my first counselor on an individual basis that was not class until until probably about a year after I graduated. And I think there's so much stigma around that for black folks. And I think it's powerful for you to be at a place where you can share that. So I appreciate that. And we're not even specifically talking about the mental health part yet. So I think it's powerful. I think it's powerful that that's where, you were led. That's where you felt compelled to share. So what I wanted to talk to you about with these last few minutes is just kind of creating challenges for us to really develop change, right? And there are a few things that I want for our viewers and our participants to kind of commit to as they're creating these challenges that will lead to sustained positive change, right? And one is low energy, high impact, right? So thinking of things that don't require a whole lot of energy for you to do, but they will lead to some really huge, effective changes in your life. And then the other one is understanding what change is. And there are essentially 2 ways to really create change. You can either, change your environment, change up your space, or you can do things that will lead you to change your habits. And I found that in just my own research, some of the best ways to do the latter two, really, it's hard to change your environment. It's challenging to change your environment on a day-to-day basis. It's not impossible at all, and there are definitely ways to do it. But I found that it's a lot easier to find tiny habits, to tweak them, that over time will help you grow. And an example of that is there's a guy, Dr. Fogg, I think he's over at Stanford, but he talked about how he went to the restroom, and every time he went to the restroom, he did as many push-ups as he could do. And so he linked behaviors. Every time he flushed the toilet, he would do as many push-ups as he could do. And he started off doing like 2 at a time. And at the time that I actually got to see him speak, he was saying that now he does 70, 80 push-ups a day, because every time he goes to the restroom, i.e. flushes the toilet, he does push-ups, right? And so I'm wondering what are some things like that we can come up with to help. What are tiny behaviors that we can link and celebrate those tiny behaviors that will over time lead for long-term change when it comes to academic and career wellness?
Okay.
So yeah, anything come to mind for you?
Yeah. So a couple of things. So one of the things that I don't do the push-ups like that. I've started doing some exercises. And my mom and I, whenever I'm home, I get with her and we're trying some of these new Sean T videos and all that stuff. But one thing that I do is I don't park conveniently.
Okay.
I park, in a good bit of ways away from the building where I'm going. And if I have to go somewhere, sometimes it's tough. If I have to go somewhere across campus, I try to walk rather than to just drive from here to there, because that adds up. It adds up, and you'll be surprised. My doctor said if you do 15 to 20 minutes a day exercise 5 days a week, that can maintain your health and even bring down some of those negative biomarkers for prediabetes and some other things like that, just by doing 15 to 20 minutes. That's not a long time. That we've been on here longer than that is. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's something that can help. Taking advantage of some of those counseling sessions. That's something that you can integrate. Just one a semester. One a semester at midterms or something like that may be enough for you to get the venting that you need. And it's only about an hour out of your day. You can find an hour to do a lot of things in one semester. Mm-hmm. You may not have an hour from day to day, but in one semester, you can find an hour somewhere where you can do that. So that's something that you can do. One thing that I did, particularly in the sciences, and this may not work for everybody, but I'm telling you, it'll help. If you know your project, or if you know your topic, or if you know what you're going to write on, to wait until that last year to start writing your dissertation. So every day I wrote something. Day or every week I wrote something. It may not have even made it into my dissertation, but when I had ideas, I put them down and I put them in a place where I could cut it and put it into a document, or I could edit it, that kind of thing. And so by the time I actually got to the dissertation phase, I had chapters 1, 2, and 3 pretty much done. I mean, by the time not dissertation phase, but by the time I got to my proposal phase, I had chapters 1, 2, and 3 pretty much done. All I had to do was finish the experiments, do the data analysis, and get my conclusions, because I had already what it was that I needed to do. And so if you can find ways to do that, just writing a little bit here and there, you'll have more of your dissertation done than you ever realize. I think what makes people go ABD, or all but dissertation, is they get to the end and they realize this is a lot of doggone writing I got to do. I didn't want that to happen. So instead, I did so much writing that I could, just little bits here and there. By the time I got to the end, that little bit added up to pretty much my whole first 3 chapters, and methods and materials and all that good stuff there as well. And all I had to do was analyze my data, write it up, and go through the proofing and editing piece. You see what I mean? Absolutely. So those are just some little things you can do. Networking when you go to conferences, just having enough business cards and having that elevator speech that can help you professionally. That's something small. Developing a good elevator speech or a good quick synopsis of what you do and what you can get to, it takes time to get it together, but getting that together is something small that you can do that'll help you network a lot. In your resume every semester, updating your resume every month, updating your resume after every big event. That's something small that'll save you time down the line, because I'll tell you right now, and I'm telling you this because I didn't do it, right? I'll tell you right now, if I were to try to update my resume right now, based on everything I've done this year, I'm going to miss something that's very important. Simply put, if you're very productive and very active, you've got to update. So updating periodically is something that you can do that's small. I mean, all you have to do is put in a quick line of what it is that you did, the impact, whatever. But that's something that if you try to do it all at the end of the year, you're going to forget stuff that's very, very important. And this is kind of worry-free. You know what I mean? So those are just some of the things, little things that you can do. And there's a bunch of other ideas, but those are just some of the little things you can do that can make a big change and help you progress.
Man, thank you for that. And I definitely the linking what you're trying to do to things that you already have to do. Like every time you go to work, park far enough away where you have to walk. You got to go to work every day, so make sure you're parking in a place where you got to walk. Or every time you're going to a conference, if you're going to these conferences, a very small thing you should do after you already go to them is to update your resume. And as soon as you begin to link those types of behaviors to each other, I think that's powerful. And then, I think the other one that really stood out to me was like the dissertation piece, because there are so many people who are ABD. And you already are in a program. So if after each class, or even after you commit, because there are so many different ways to do it, but after you've already committed to being in the program, if you say to yourself, every time I have an idea, I'll write it down. right? If you just, just as simple as that, I think ways to use those small things to build into very large successes in your life. So I really appreciate everything that you talked about tonight. I'm looking forward to having you on again if you're open into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And for everyone who has any questions or comments, his information will be in the description. If you didn't already write it down, you should have jotted it down already. He's someone you definitely want to know. And if you want to get in contact with me or NBGSA, same deal. It'll be in the description. I am on Twitter. I am on Instagram at John J New, JohnJayknew. That's on Instagram and Twitter. I'm also on Facebook, and it's pretty straightforward. John Wosu. My last name is spelled NWOSU. So thank y'all for tuning in. Be on the lookout for more stuff that we have to come. And I hope that y'all just continue to be great. Because if you realize that if you made it this far, then you've already done some amazing things in your life. So just build on that. And we look forward to connecting with you at our conference and throughout the other events that we have over the course of the year. Y'all have a great day, night, afternoon, whatever. Peace.
Take it easy.